Okay, let's just jump right in. When I say the phrase fear of God, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's not a great feeling, right? It sounds kind of scary, maybe even terrifying. But what if that's a total misunderstanding? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to deconstruct that phrase and find something way deeper and way more powerful inside.
And right off the bat, here's the central paradox we're exploring. We usually think of fear as something that makes us run for the hills. It drives you away from danger. But what's fascinating is that in a biblical sense, this specific kind of fear is actually the thing that's supposed to pull you closer to God. It's a fear that draws you toward Him, not one that pushes you away. It's more like a child standing in just complete and total awe of a great, loving Father. See? It's a completely different kind of fear. And this right here, this sums up that shift perfectly. It's not about being afraid that God is going to hurt you. It's about being afraid of hurting the God who loves you. The whole focus flips from self-preservation, from how do I avoid getting in trouble, to being all about the relationship. It's a reverence so deep that your biggest worry is messing up that amazing connection.
So, how did we get so off track with this? Well, the key, as it so often is in the original language. See, in Hebrew, it's not so simple. There isn't just one word for fear. They have a few different words, and somehow they all got crammed into our one single, really loaded English word. So let's break them down. Okay, first up, you've got Pashad. Now, this is what we typically think of as fear. It's that raw, gut-level terror. You know, you're facing a real and immediate threat, like the slide says, a man with a gun. Your heart's pounding, adrenaline's pumping. This is not what they mean when they talk about the fear of God. All right, next up is Emma. Now this one's a little different. This is more like a crippling anxiety, a sense of dread. You know something is wrong, you're scared, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is or where it's coming from. It's that awful, vague sense of doom. Again, totally different from Pachad, and also not the fear of God. And that brings us to the big one, the word we really need to understand, Yirah. Now this is where it gets so cool. The root of this word, Yirah, is connected to the Hebrew word ra'ah, which means to see. So this isn't about being scared of what might happen to you. It's about the profound, world-shifting awe of realizing you are being seen. This idea of being seen, it's everything. It is the absolute core of this whole concept. So picture it. You walk into a room and you're pretty sure you're totally alone. So, you act like you're alone. Maybe you're singing off key, talking to yourself, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you realize someone's been standing in the corner the entire time. And they saw you. I mean, in that one instant, your whole world changes, right? First, there's that jolt, that startle reflex. Your entire awareness just snaps into focus. And immediately, you start to act differently. Your posture changes, your behavior changes, everything changes because you realize you're not alone. You are seen. And that's the whole point. Yirah isn't a one-off moment of being scared. It's a state of being. It's this ongoing consciousness, this awareness that we are always being seen, always being noticed. And when you live with that awareness, it fundamentally changes how you move through the world moment by moment. Okay, so that's the definition, that's the analogy. But what does this Yirah, this holy awe, actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's check out a few key stories from the biblical text where this idea really comes to life. Let's start with a big one, Abraham. He gets this absolutely unthinkable command regarding his son, Isaac. And at the very last second, an angel steps in and says these exact words. It's so specific. Not, now I know you love God, or now I know you trust God. Nope, it's, now I know that you fear God. So for Abraham, Yirah looked like radical obedience. It meant he trusted God's character even when the command made zero sense and seemed to go against everything God had ever promised. That awe of who God was, it was bigger than his own confusion. Okay, now let's jump forward to Joseph in Egypt. He's young, he's totally alone, 1,000 miles from home. Potiphar's wife comes on to him, day after day. Nobody would ever find out. But just listen to his response. He doesn't ask, what if we get caught? See, Joseph's concern wasn't about the horizontal consequences, what people would think or do. His question was pointed straight up, vertically, toward God. His Yirah was that constant awareness of being seen. It's what produced this incredible integrity, even when he was completely alone. He was more afraid of hurting his relationship with God than getting caught by any human.
And you see this idea just woven all through the scriptures. It's there with Nadab and Abihu, teaching that you have to take God's holiness seriously. It's what allows Job to stay humble and keep worshiping even after he loses literally everything. And for Moses at that burning bush, it's that jaw-dropping moment of realizing this infinitely huge God was also right there, incredibly close.
So you can start to see why this concept is seen as just so foundational. It's not just a feeling you have sometimes. It's the lens you look through to see everything else. It's framed as the absolute starting line for living a life that makes any sense. And this famous line from Proverbs, it suddenly makes so much more sense now, doesn't it? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Well, yeah. If Yirah is this constant awareness of God's presence, his greatness, then of course that's where wisdom starts. If you don't have that perspective, you're missing the single most important piece of the puzzle. You can't see straight. You can't walk straight. And look at what this holy awe actually produces in a person. It's not terror. It's not anxiety. It's the opposite. It leads to a soft heart, a humble spirit. It inspires you to live a pure life, to have a steady faith that doesn't get rattled. And you know what? It actually leads to a much, much deeper love.
So we've come full circle. This whole journey of deconstructing the fear of God, it doesn't end where we thought it would. It starts with this scary misunderstanding, this idea of terror. But when we understand it as Yirah, it gets completely transformed into reverence, into awe, and ultimately, it ends in worship.
And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. Forget all the Hebrew words in the theology for just a second. Just think about that core idea. If you really truly lived your life with the constant awareness that you were being seen, always noticed by a holy and loving God, what would change for you? Something to think about.